Residents in Johannesburg South find themselves between a rock and a hard place. Either they don't have electricity or they don't have water. Now, some areas haven't had water for weeks, while others haven't seen a drop in months. eNCA reporter Heidi Giokos is on the ground and she joins us live for an update. Heidi, when I spoke to you earlier, you were in Rosettenville. Residents there furious about the situation, and I believe you are in Bergbron right now. What are residents there saying?
Yes, well, it's 16 days counting that residents here in parts of Bergbron have not had water, and it just seems to be an issue that cannot be resolved. We are joined by a resident here in Bergbron. Lungi, thank you so much for your time. Maybe just give us context as to what exactly is going on here, because I find it absolutely shocking that you have not had water for 16 days.
16 days, that's true. The issue started 16 days ago on another corner of Gordon Road and Johannesburg. So when they were fixing that, they hit an electric cable, but they did fix it. Once they fixed that corner, then mine burst, my pipe burst. Then they came to fix that, but they hit, as they were digging, they hit the sewage pipe, and that led the sewage into the main line of the water. So they had to flush the entire system. So for the past 5 days they've been flushing. So there's been millions and millions of water going down this road since Monday. So yesterday they came and they closed the hole. Then this morning they did my meter, and then they said they're opening the water. And they did open the water, but it started leaking again. So they had to call the grader back to open the same hole that they closed last night. So that's what's happening right now. They're fixing what they...
Oh, you can actually see there's some water going out there. Okay, so, I mean, this is just unacceptable. You know, as a resident, you're obviously really struggling. Water is life. People say we can try and do without electricity, but water is obviously very difficult. You were telling me off air that you've sent your kids to your grandmother in Soweto because you don't have water here.
That's correct. But the other two kids are a bit older. I've got an 8-month-old baby. So you constantly have to be washing your hands. You're constantly picking stuff up. You're changing nappies. So that one is a real pain. The fact that I can't just open a tap and wash my hands so that I can look after the baby. But yeah, I did send my other 2 older kids to my grandmother.
So what is the way forward? Because obviously you rely on Joburg Water or Rand Water, whoever, to give you updates. Has the communication been clear in terms of what the plan is and whether or not they are going to be able to restore water?
The communication hasn't been clear. There is a WhatsApp group, but messages trickle in and out. But Joburg Water has not communicated ever since. So I did report I did call them and I reported, and I got a reference number, and I used Twitter as well. But ever since, so let's say 10 days ago, they haven't communicated anything. So right now what we do is we collect water and I bath them. But me personally, I go home to Soweto to go take a bath.
So you're in a position to go home. I mean, others are unable to do so. When we arrived here, you were busy collecting water, which the water tankers there. Maybe I can ask Kulu to just show you that the water tanker does arrive and does supply with water. But you know, you live in a suburban area. This is not something that you should be doing. You should be getting water out of your taps because it's a service that you pay for.
Correct. And that's our worry right now, that we've got 16 days without water. Well, firstly, we always have water issues in this area, almost every 3 months. So the other thing that exacerbated the issue was that Ekenhof pump. When they were stealing, they vandalized in Orlando East. So that exacerbated. That was another 4 days, but it did come back last weekend. But every 3 months or so, we always have a water issue in this area. So we've learned to live with it. But this is just unacceptable. So now my wife and I are discussing Jojo tanks and stuff, just to put it in the yard, so that we always have water next to us.
I'm curious to know what your bill is like, because if you don't have water, and if you're not going to have water, if you haven't had water already for 16 days, do you still get the same bill?
I still get the same bill. I mean, when they hit the power line, how many days did we stay? I think 4 days, 5 days without electricity. So yeah, but the bill is still the same. It doesn't do anything. I'll try and go ask them for another person to come read my meter, but yeah, it's just under 4,000 a month.
Shocking. Thank you so much for your time, Lungi, and we do hope that they try and resolve this as quickly as possible. To not have water for 16 days, I can't even imagine that, Baron. And Lungi was actually saying to me, you know, you leave the rural areas in Limpopo because that's how you used to collect water with buckets, and you move to the suburbs and you move to the city of Johannesburg that's supposed to be deemed a world-class city, and you don't have water for 16 days. I also just want to emphasize that we did want to show but we're not going to show that at this point. We did want to show the area where the pump was broken, but the Rand Water, I think it's actually Joburg Water, workers were rather aggressive and telling us that we are not allowed to shoot or video or take any visuals of it. I'm not really sure at this point why that was said. But I mean, residents are frustrated, and residents are obviously really desperate for some sort of solution here, because the water might have been restored for a couple of minutes, but they're back to not having water at this point.
And it's also interesting that you mentioned the bills still stay the same. No electricity, no water, but we still pay the same amount every month for these services that we are not getting. Thank you so much, Heidi Giokos. She's in Bergbrand, just giving us an update there about the water issues there. Earlier she was in Rosettenville, where residents are also furious about the situation. And like we heard from Lungi there, that she was interviewing one of the residents in Bergbrand, having to send his 8-month-old baby to his mother in Soweto just because he can't look after the baby, as you know, because of a sanitary situation. So make sure, or to make sure that he has clean hands to make sure that he looks after the baby. So that is really a very, very big issue, the water issues in those areas. We will be giving you updates throughout the show, so make sure that you do stay tuned here on eNCA.